Here is Oscar the punctual. Hi, Oscar. He wrote me that he needs to leave in 30 minutes. I cannot hear you. Yeah. I think everybody's muted, Julia, or okay.
Participants are muted, and I think we will have a questions session in the end. We also received questions through the registration form, and Nicoletta will be addressing them during the presentation. And as I said, there will be a question session after the main presentation finishes. So feel free to prepare your questions and ask them as soon as possible. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining today's webinar, kindly prepared and run by GuardMe International Insurance Solutions for all student-related challenges. I can imagine you're excited about the approaching high season, but also a little bit nervous. So we have Nicoletta to reassure us that everything is going to be all right in this 2025 summer season. Nicoletta, please, we are listening to you.
Thank you, Julia. That's a very nice introduction. After I'm based in Spain, and after our blackout yesterday, so it was really like a funny day to start thinking about the summer season. So at least it happened in a moment with less people around. So I hope anybody of you that was affected, you didn't get any major problem. And today I'm here with my colleague, Maria Jose. She is the person in charge of our account management in GuardMe in Europe.
Nice meeting you all. I don't know if you can hear me as well.
Yeah, yeah, we do.
Great.
So during this presentation, I will give you some kind of information that can be useful also getting ready to the summer season, and not only, but also I will try to reply during the presentation to some of the questions you added in the format Julia shared with you. So the first thing, it's a little bit on, for those that don't know GuardMe so much, who we are. And here I will reply to one question that was made many times, where GuardMe can work. So I know many of you used to work with GuardMe directly in the past. Unfortunately, due to some license issues, we had to stop working directly with certain markets. So at the moment, at GuardMe, we only work B2B, so students cannot get the certificates directly with us. It has to be via an agent or a school. And those agents and schools have to be based. So when I say have to be based, they have to have a billing address and operation in any of these countries. I'm going to tell you that is UK, Ireland, Germany, Italy, Spain, and Malta. So if your company is not based in any of these countries I just mentioned, doesn't mean you cannot work with us or that students from your countries cannot be insured. Means that we have another partner you could deal with to get GuardMe policies, that is advisor. So for all of you that are based, I know there are many of you from Brazil, from Turkey, and other countries that I haven't mentioned in the list where we can work directly together, then you can have the same products, but you have to do it with advisor, with whom we signed an exclusivity agreement. That means that in any other country where GuardMe doesn't operate directly, they will. And again, the conditions, the policies are really the same. GuardMe, we are, for those who don't know, we are the only insurance provider that is specialized only in our industry. So we are the only one. Of course, there are many insurance providers in the world and in many countries, but we are the only one that only deal with the international students. So everything we do is really focused on our industry. And I'm very proud to say that it's not just the insurance what we do in terms of supporting, but we like to support the industry itself. And the IALC, it's one example of those. So we like to support IALC associations and their members. Let's go on. So about the coverage, as I said, we deal directly with those countries. And when I said that those 6 countries we can deal directly, it's really all about just your billing address. But this doesn't affect where the student come from, where the student travel to. And this what makes your life easier. And again, because we only work B2B, for us, we know how important not to create extra work for you. So all our policies are the same. Doesn't matter where the student come from, doesn't matter where the student travel to. So I had among the questions, if we cover US, absolutely yes. Any country in the world will be covered, any destination and any origin of the student. Now, of course, we need to be careful, and this is, of course, it's a little bit logic. If the student is traveling in a country where the government has advised not to travel, of course, there won't be covered. So but usually in our industry, we would send students in safe countries, so this wouldn't be a problem. So as I said, the same conditions, the same benefits will be the same for all destinations. What might change is the price for sure. So we have a price destination Europe, we have a price destination US, and we have a price destination rest of the world. But again, anything else in terms of cover is really the same. Here you see a small summary of the main benefits. I will be very brief with this, because whenever you're interested, I will be happy to go in a one-to-one meeting in a different moment. But as you can see, we cover medical up to 10 million. This means that doesn't matter what happens to the students, they will be covered, either private or public. Very important, we can do the direct billing. So whenever students or anybody on a student's behalf call us in advance, we cannot authorize the direct billing to the hospitals. So this is very important. No excesses, with exception of Ireland. For the long term, we have a specific policy for destination Ireland, but any other policy, they don't have excesses. For those who don't know what an excess is a small payment amount that will be deducted from a total payment. Like in the case of Ireland, it's 80 euros. So it really, but for any other destinations, we don't cover any excess. So if the students goes to the doctor and spend 60 euros, we will give 60 euro back. So the total. Then we also cover psychological issues, and I will give you more example later, because this is something pretty unique. In insurance, usually psychological issues might be excluded. Then you can upgrade the policies and add the cover for cancellation, pre-departure cancellation. I will go into details about cancellation and curtailment later. Then a new benefit for those that already work with us, since so for this year is the first year we introduced the rescheduling the trip. This is very interesting because we noticed that many students didn't want to cancel. They just wanted to postpone. Let's say a student that got sick and wanted to postpone the trip, not to cancel it, then there we can actually help and pay up to 1,000 euros, let's say, to reschedule the flight or any cost involved in that rescheduling. Then it's not just medical insurance, also travel insurance. So any problem with the flight, luggage will be covered, and the personal liability that in our industry affects mainly whenever students break anything in the host family, residencies, and so on. So you can count on that cover as well. So this slide actually will reply to one of the questions I got from the report Julia shared with me. So what's the difference between travel insurance and I gave here an example of the European health card? Because many schools usually tell us like, oh, no, we don't need insurance because most of our students are European, our school is in Europe, so they are covered. That is partially correct, because what the European health card will cover is really medical related issues. So a student that needs to go to the hospital or needs to go to the doctor. However, we need to be very careful, because beside we are in the European Union doesn't mean that each market and each country will apply the same rule. So let's say I'm Italian, I travel to Spain, and I need to go to a doctor to do some kind of treatment. In Italy, that treatment will be for free with the public health system, but maybe in Spain it's not. Therefore, I will pay. So it's not that there is one rule for all countries. So you might be paying even having a European health card. So this is very important. And as I said, the main difference is that, as I said, the medical card, the European health card, it's really just medical. Doesn't cover many other benefits that private insurance would cover. And here I give you some example. I mean, the same medical cover, like a private insurance would cover also private hospitals or private clinics, right? And you would never have to pay anything. Doesn't matter which kind of agreements are in Europe, we will pay up to 10 million. Cancellation, European health card doesn't cover if you cancel. So it's really just a medical. So cancellation, we do cover that, pre-departure cancellation, and also the curtailment. So let's say that a student needs to curtail their trip because they got sick or they had some issue at home, they need to go back home. The European health card doesn't care about that, right? So private insurance would pay not only for the flight going back home, but also to recover the cost of the tuition, accommodation, and any other services that the student couldn't get anymore. So this is another example. Then, of course, the repatriation that will be covered, and let's see other things, and of course anything related with the flights and accommodation. So really just keep in mind what it's I don't know if the person that asked me this question is online, but really anything that is related to the European health card or any other public any cards offered by the public system of a country, it would really strictly related to medical. While a travel and private insurance will always have the travel part as well included. Now, how to use the private travel medical insurance when students are abroad? First of all, to identify the emergency. If it's an emergency that seeks immediate help, or just someone that wants to see a doctor. This is very important because when you deal with a private insurance, let's say a student needs to be hospitalized, it is compulsory to call the insurance. It's not an option. You have to call the insurance. And the reasons are different, but I give you an example. I mentioned before, destination US. In the US system, if you don't call the insurance and the student goes to the hospital, in the moment the US system issue an invoice under the student name, or even worse, that happen very often, under the host family name, to change that invoice, to change the beneficiary of that invoice to the insurance, because we will still be in charge to pay that invoice, can take ages. And it's not because the insurance is low, it's just because the US system has a very complicated way to process the invoices. So very, very important. Hospitalization, you call at least within the 24 hours. We understand that sometimes it's just impossible to call because, it's an emergency, you don't have the data with you, whatever. So we understand that, but within 24 hours will be fine. Now, because we offer, as I said before, we do offer the possibility to pay in advance, also other emergencies that are not hospitalization, that can be just a doctor visit. If you call in advance, that would allow us to make arrangements with that doctor, with that clinic, and we would pay in advance. So in other words, whenever you can call in advance is always better. That would allow us to start the process better and you would avoid to pay in advance. Then another important thing is every insurance, and here really also the purpose of this presentation is not just about GuardMe, but also in general when you deal with a private travel insurance. You will have access to a policy or certificate number. This would allow the insurance to identify the student. Without that, it's impossible, especially when we want to pre-authorize a payment. We need to actually double check that that student is actually insured, that is in the list of the certificates issued by GuardMe, as an example. And this is important because we also need to check that whatever reason the student is going to the doctor for, it is actually covered. Let's not forget that most of the insurances won't cover pre-existing conditions. So we need to make sure that the student is not, the reason why the student is going to that doctor is for something he already had. So that's why also sometimes we need to make some questions to identify the problem. Of course, let's say a student got a car accident. That is easy, it's straightforward because it's for sure is not related to a pre-existing condition. But if there's anything else that could be, then we need to approve it in advance. Very important, always in case you didn't ask for the pre-authorization, so for us to pay upfront, always to keep the medical reports and invoices. Without this information, we won't be able to reimburse anything. So all payment receipts always have to be given to the insurance. And then the last point is actually one thing that happens very often. So we have cases of students that are abroad. During an activity, they fall, they have something not major. They don't ask anything to the insurance because they don't feel too bad. Then they go back home and their parents take them to the doctor and then they discover that actually the ankle is broken and that student needs for treatment and needs for physiotherapy and etc. And then they activate the insurance. Too late. So the travel insurance, any travel insurance is active only during the dates of the trip abroad. There is no cover once the student is back home. There are very few exceptions to this rule. That could be if a student got sick while abroad and we believe that it's better to continue that treatment in his home country, then we authorize that, then we will pay for it, but we need to authorize that. But to make it more clear, 99% of the times, the insurance will only cover the medical treatments while the student is abroad, never when he's back home. So this is very important. And then there is this amazing service that unfortunately, because of the anxiety of everybody when something happens, not many will use, but we really encourage you to use, that is the digital doctor. Of course, since COVID, most of the medical systems moved online as well. So it is possible to have a doctor visit online. It could be video, it could be just a call. It's the same emergency line we have for when you seek emergency support, and you can just call. You say which of the languages that you can see. These languages you see in the screen are the guaranteed languages. However, we might have other available as well. But let's say the students it's not feeling very good, and instead of going to an hospital or to a doctor in person, you could have a first filter by calling and having a video call with a doctor with us. So this is we really unfortunately many times, especially in summer, for those of you who deals with the minors, we understand that many times are the parents that ask you to take the student to the hospital. However, you might avoid to do that because through the system, we are even able to provide prescription, medicine prescription. So it's really, it's a really straightforward and easy system to use. And now I will share with you some real cases that we dealt with, and that would show you how actually private travel medical insurance can support you. So here we have the example of a student that was in the US and suffered of a panic attack. As I said before, we do cover also psychological and not, physical problems. This is something that it's unique of GuardMe to cover. So be aware that if you deal with any other insurance, you have to double check if that is covered. The only thing you always need to keep in mind, we don't cover anything that is pre-existent, especially related to any anxiety or panic attack. So we will also in that case, we will check before if the student suffered anything similar in the past, and then we can be able to decide if it's covered or not. In this case, it was covered. It was the first time that the student experienced such an event, and we reimbursed around 4,000 euros for the days the student was in the hospital in the US. Then we have the curtailment. So curtailment is when a student is already abroad and needs to go back home. There is a very current mistake here that nobody calls us, because again, we go back with the parents that gets anxiety that something happens to their kids, and they ask you to send the kids back home. And then they ask us to give the money back. It doesn't work that way. We need always to pre-authorize the curtailment. We need to verify if it's actually necessary for the student to go back home, especially when it's related to a medical condition. So if you don't call us and the student is already back, we are not able to identify the problem anymore because it will be too late, right? So very important, curtailment, always call us in advance. The reasons, of course, to curtail, to cancel, you will get in our policies. But like in the case of curtailment, one of the main reasons is actually the medical, or like you see here, we will see in the example we have here, the grandfather passed away and the student needed to go back home. So that is a reason that can be covered. So the death of a family member. In this case, in the case of the curtailment, what we cover is there's something I mentioned before, the trip to go back home. And in the case, let's say that it's a minor, then we might also authorize for a family member to reach the student abroad in order to travel back home with the student because it's underage, right? And also all the cost of activities, tuition, accommodation that the student couldn't use anymore. So this is what could be covered under the curtailment. Regarding the pre-departure cancellations, so we do cover many reasons. And in this webinar, of course, I would like to talk about the reasons that are the most difficult and the most common. So visa refusal. So I know it's a topic right now that it's very tough in our industry because there are many countries that are not giving any visa. So I give you a bad news. It's very difficult to get reimbursed for a visa refusal. It's not impossible. That's why it's part of the policy. But just for you to be aware, it's very difficult. First of all, for a visa refusal to be covered, it has to be for a reason that goes beyond the student control. So if we will always need the letter from the consulate or the embassy informing of the reason of that refusal. And if the reason of that refusal is not related to missing documents or requirements and etc., we might cover it. But if the visa refusal, maybe sometimes it's not a visa refusal, it's a delay it's very common, right? This won't be covered. So really, as a rule, visa refusal will be covered only if it's the reason given by the consulate is really outside of the student control. I'll give you an easy example where we did a cover. It's actually something common. We don't understand why they do that in the consulates. It's like a student that it's traveling to Spain to learn Spanish, so is signed up to a Spanish school, and the consulate would say that the Spanish level of the student is not high enough to attend to consider studying in Spain. So of course this makes no sense, and we would cover it because we have proof that the student actually is going to Spain to learn Spanish. So it makes sense if the student doesn't have any level of Spanish. So just for you to have as an example of the reasons that could be covered. Then among the reasons that for those of you that are based, especially the agencies, I would say, we deal many times. I must say in our experience is something that is very common in Italy and Spain, that is the subject failure. In Italian is debito scolastico, and in Spanish is suspenso de notas. So what does that mean? It's a student that is attending the high school in their home country. In June, they didn't pass some subjects, and the school in their home country asked them to stay because they have to redo those exams. And those exams will happen in July. That is when they were supposed to attend a summer camp in the UK, as an example. So this is something that we can cover. Now, very important, because we have so many cases, and we understand that each of you have your processes and when to issue the certificates and so on. But we tell you from an insurance point of view what you should do to have higher chances for that student to be covered. First of all, and not only for the subject failure, but for anything, if you decide to issue a policy with a cancellation for the pre-departure cancellation, issue it as soon as possible. Like in the case of GuardMe, we don't require you to issue any certificate together with the confirmation of the booking or the flights. Doesn't matter. You have time up to 10 months before the departure to issue the cancellation policy. This is an advice we give you because you won't pay extra if you issue the policy earlier. Doesn't matter. The way we charge is based on the dates or on the days the student is abroad. So if the student is going to attend a 3 weeks program, is going to pay for 21 days. If that policy has been issued 3, 6, or 10 months earlier, doesn't matter. You still will be paying for 21 days. So the earlier, the better. Why? Because we had so many cases last summer of agencies that, because of their own processes, they issued policies end of May. And then the student was informed not to have passed a subject a few weeks later. From an insurance point of view, that means that was a pre-existing case, because the moment you issue the policy, the student, of course, knew that he was not doing very well in school, right? So it was not a surprise. So we understand that, of course, especially the agencies, you won't have access to the results of each student. You won't ask each student how good they are in school, right? So we understand this it's not your fault. However, we need to avoid any claims that could be pre-existent. So if you issue the policies too late, you will take the risk not to be covered. And this is for a subject failure, it's one example. So for the subject failure, so we will be requesting also all documents about the evaluation of the students throughout the year from the moment we issue the policy. Also there, we want to avoid that the policy has been issued knowing of the possibility to open a claim. This is the basic rule of any insurance. The insurance has to be issued, any certificate, without any intention to make a claim. If you know there might be a possibility to make a claim because of any circumstances, this goes against the principle of insurance, otherwise they will all be bankrupted. So very important. So this is really basic. So we will check in the case of the subject here. As I said, you will see here in the important to know the academic performance, the dates when the exam has to be redone. Then there has to be a real reason that prevents the trip. So let's say that punishment of the parents won't be covered. So there must be a reason related to the academic year. Like we have many cases of students attending a long-term program. So there are some schools in their home country that if they fail a subject, won't allow them to go, let's say, for a semester in the US. So this could be a reason that can be covered. And then the other I already told you about. So this is very important. And again, for those of you that deal with this kind of issues, feel free to get in touch with us. We will be happy to tell you all the tips to try to get covered as much as possible. But first rule is really issue the policy as soon as possible. That's the best thing you can do. Okay, so I was fast enough. So amongst the question, Julia, that I got that I didn't answer here, someone asked me if we also offer anything related to the guardianship, and the answer is not. We don't. And then I think the rest of the questions in the report I did reply during the presentation. Should I go, Julia, through the questions in the chat?
I saw that Maria was actually answering them.
Oh, that's amazing.
The majority of points they were already covered.
Yes, I took advantage to support Nicoletta during this. So basically, there's one that I still have to check because they're asking us about Turkish market. So we need to verify internally who's available, who can support the Turkish market.
I think it's Bahar in advisor. If
yeah, exactly.
So same advisor, because I told about Latin America, and there were a couple from Brazil asking us about Latin America. So advisor also then could be suggested.
Any country.
Okay, great.
You can support anybody that is outside of the 6 countries where we deal directly with the schools and agencies. So age limit is 74 at the moment of when the trip starts. Yeah.
We've just put Bahar's address. Bahar is the Turkish manager at Advisor, so you can reach out to her if needed. And maybe we just recommend the audience, if they have questions that haven't been submitted through the chat, that they just raise their hand and ask them live. What do you think?
Perfect. I'm just replying here about so there is no minimum age as long as you're a student. So this is something I didn't say during the presentation. So GuardMe only covers educational trips. So that's why we are experts in our industry. So we cannot cover any trip that is not related to a study program. Doesn't matter which kind of study, but study, internships, and cultural programs. So as long, it doesn't matter if the student can be even 5 or 6 because he's going to a summer camp, it can be covered. So there is no minimum, but the maximum is 74 years old.
There is another question about if multi-risk plus cancellation is always the best option. So
okay, so I mean the multi-risk with the cancellation is something we created, doesn't exist so much in the insurance world, because usually you can issue a medical cover and then you can top it up with a cancellation. So usually the cancellation in the insurance industry, you pay a percentage on the total amount. And that makes usually the cancellation a very expensive product. However, the way we made it, creating the multi-risk with cancellation, you pay the same. It really depends on the markets where you are in, but usually it's around from 130 to 150 euros per day, and you're covered up to 7,500 euros. So for the short-term programs, it's really affordable. So definitely, when you are interested in cancellation, the multi-risk with the cancellation is the best product, 100%. Thank you, Oscar. I don't know if you left. Thank you. From they paid for. So is there a way to upgrade? No. So there is no way to upgrade a multi-risk. So in the moment, if you issue a multi-risk, and you want a multi-risk with the cancellation, we need to cancel that multi-risk and issue the multi-risk with cancellation. This is very important. The cancellation will be in place from the day we issue the certificate. So if you issue the certificate of the multi-risk in January, and then you wanted to change with cancellation today, the cancellation will be active from today, not from January. This is very important. So anything that happened between January and now won't be covered. So that's important. Kind of cover for agency staff. So this is something that is coming. So as we speak, I'm working on a new product that will be an exclusive product for all of us from our industry, and that, of course, that work with GuardMe. So we will be able to provide. It will be a multi-trip cover. So you will issue once per year this multi-trip cover. So for the whole year, doesn't matter where you go, you will be covered. You don't need to issue certificates for each trip. So this is something we have been working right now, and hopefully it will be ready by mid-summer, something like that. So whoever is our client, you will get a notification about it. Is the easier we can take cancellation cover still 6 months prior travel? Yes, you can issue the cancellation anytime before the trip, up to 10 months, and we have an exception in Italy. We allow up to 12 months. But the earlier, the better. The only risk you run when you issue a cancellation policy, the cancellation policy is active from the moment we activated it, right? We issue it. That means that if you issue, as an example, 6 months prior to travel, and then for whatever reason the students need to cancel the trip, but not for something that will be covered, any other reasons, we cannot give you the money back of that insurance because, of course, it's active. It is different, the multi-risk without cancellation. The multi-risk without cancellation only gets active the day the student travels. So if the student doesn't want that policy before, you just let us know and we give you the money back because it's not an active policy. So for Mexican students, buy directly with advisor, yes. So just to tell you again, the only markets where you can deal directly with us are UK, Ireland, Germany, Italy, Spain, and Malta. Anything that is not in this list, you need to contact the advisor, or if you want us to introduce you, we can do that. But again, the products will be the same. There is another product I didn't mention, that is the Travel Plus cancellation. That is a product without the medical cover. It's only curtailment and cancellation. We created for those destinations where usually the school already includes the medical. So you don't want to duplicate that. So we have that product because it happens with us a lot. Because in Canada, for those of you who send students to Canada, most of the districts, they include GuardMe, right? Because our company in Canada works with a lot of districts there. So you don't need to issue 2 times a medical cover. So there is that option as well. How is the advisor contact for Colombia and Ecuador? I don't know by heart, but I don't know, Julia, if you have the contacts of Colombia. I know Colombia. Colombia is Mari.
I think it's
Alicia.
Eduardo.
Is Eduardo for
Alicia.
everything? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's Eduardo or Alicia.
So do you mind to write, because I don't have in hand the Eduardo email?
Yeah, let
And
me
then
copy
for
it.
sure,
Yeah,
then
sure.
you can redirect to whatever person is in charge. So please inform which company in Brazil can we buy insurance? Again, advisor. So advisor, this is something that we created that is actually gave us back the opportunity to offer our services.
Yeah, I already share, sorry, Nicola, I already share the contact for Brazil advisor. It's Clara Terra.
Okay.
So I already shared the email right there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Perfect. I don't know, did I miss any question? I think we replied to most of them or all of them. Any other question you would like me to reply? Okay, I think, Julia, we are ready. Thank you, Fabiana.
Thank you very much, Nicoletta. I think it's extremely useful presentation. The only thing we are probably missing is your email address.
Yeah, because I closed my presentation too fast.
Yes.
It was the last slide, but here it is.
So, dear colleagues, feel free to contact Nicoletta directly at nicoletta@guardme. If you need any support, any further questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you very much for attending this session. Thank you, Nicoletta, for your great presentation.
Thank you for the opportunity, Julia.
Yeah, always our pleasure, because we are great partners. As you say, we support each other in the aim to promote best high quality education for students. So wish you best of luck in the high season 2025 and hope to stay connected. Thank you for
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks to everyone. Have a great day.
Thank
Bye.
you.